So good morning, everyone. As Jen just introduced me, I'm John Rutenberg. I think everyone knows me, but more importantly, Dr. Jane, a teen and parenting life coach. How important and critical is that? So Gen Z and U will be our main focus, and if we can move through the slides, Kaufman is a great organization promoting 120 plus chapters across America, our chapter being numero uno, the best chapter in America. But critically, the folks in this room make us the best by your willingness to educate, to take risks, to be an entrepreneur, and to educate others around you. So with that, please, the next slide. Great, you're there. So welcome visitors. Do we have anyone in the room who's brand new to us? And Jen or Melinda, John, point them out to me. Or
Sina,
start.
you?
Anyone waving?
Sina might be.
Yeah, Sina.
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Sina. I'm a founder and CEO at Analytics. My startup joined MEC, I think, early May this year. So one of the new companies.
Fantastic.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you very
you
much.
so much. Next slide, please. Okay, please take your telephones and scan that little square icon. You can see to the right, we're tracking our attendance. And yours truly is responsible for it. And a phenomenon I've seen when I check the metrics that 1MC provides, it says that we have 9 people. And when we go in and register and look at the register in Zoom, we have 13 people. It's because 4 people didn't scan that little icon. So everyone take a minute, breathe slowly, and take your phones, please, and scan that. Thank you. We want that progression of the curve moving higher to the right. So also, please invite a friend, a business colleague, someone who you think would benefit from our meeting. Next slide, please. We have an organizing team and we have brand ambassadors. Several of them are in the room as we speak. I thank you. Feel free to ask to be a ambassador or an organizer, team member. We're only as strong as our weakest link, and we need more links. Give a holler. Thank you. Next slide, please. Take a moment just to read this. I referred earlier to the national and local impact. Next slide, please. I think almost everyone except one person is brand new, but our key pillars are important. We don't allow pitches for money. I've certainly made authentic connections. It takes showing up on a regular basis. We are run for the community, and we welcome your participation to enhance our community. And yes, we are intentionally and radically inclusive. Those are very important words. Next slide, please. Great. Jen, I'll turn to you first to introduce Enterprise Center, and then John, please jump in on Green Fair. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you to everybody who came out to our networking event at Mason Enterprise Center. For those of you who are not familiar, it is an incubator that works with Fairfax City EDA. It is also aligned underneath the Innovation, Economic Impact, and Research school at George Mason. The incubator itself, though, is open to all businesses. What's unique about them is they actually have dedicated mentors. They have an ICAP program for commercialization. They also do very interesting things. They have a startup program that brings companies that are international but want to deploy into DC. they have a program and a pipeline for that. So if you want to learn more, please reach out to Eddie Hill. You can be a virtual member. You can be an office member where you have space there. And when we meet Wednesday next week, we'll be in their large training room, which holds about 50 people. So if you like doing speaking or things like that, it can be a great resource for you as a business owner or business leader. With that, I'm going to turn it over to John Foster to talk about Green Fair.
Great. Thank you, Jen. So good morning, everybody. I am the ambassador for Green Fair Organic Cafe in Herndon, Virginia. We are the only restaurant in the country that does what we do. We are an educational restaurant, and we help educate people around optimal health. We run a 21-day Kickstart program, and in the Kickstart program, you get 42 meals, 4 classes. We see an average of a 20% drop in cholesterol, drop in weight, drop in blood pressure. Our goal is, again, to help people towards optimal health. For the month of August, we are running a special for the 3 classes we're going to be doing in August. So anybody has an interest, obviously you do need to be local. But for anybody who has an interest, check us out at greenfair.com. Also, I'd suggest sign up for our newsletter because we do run community events as well. We have doctors and authors come in and speak at the restaurant. So our goal, again, is to help people towards optimal health. And certainly for entrepreneurs, that's something that's vitally important. Thank you, Jen.
Thank you to both, and thank you to Mason Enterprise Center and to Green Fair. So we also have 2 partners that we like to highlight each week. Veterans Growing America, Donnell Johns was one of the starters, initiators of 1MillionCups Fairfax. A very dear friend of all of ours, and supporting veterans is really important. And certainly Fairfax County EDA. I don't believe Karen is here today, but we welcome entrepreneurs through the different sources we can partner with to help grow entrepreneurship in America. Next slide, please. So, you know, we don't want to seem rude to Dr. Jain. So we frame our questions in a particular way. We speak with warmth, and we certainly keep things short. And Dr. Jain, you'll hear again encouragement from Jen. You don't really have to answer anyone. Just say, "Oh, great idea, thank you." And don't feel defensive. Some of us don't know what the heck we're talking about. We just sound good. Okay. So next slide, please. Yeah, a really great way to help us in our meeting is use the chat to share your identity and contact info, but also to pose your questions and to give your suggestions. Certainly save the chat before you leave, but more critically, by documenting your questions and suggestions, Dr. Jain will have an opportunity later to digest this chat and also the video and come up with her 3 or 4 takeaways that are going to make a major difference. So we all know conversation best practices. We're idea builders, not bashers. So read these little balloons. You might have a different perspective, but North, you aren't really an idiot when I call you an idiot, because I disagree. Next slide, please. I'm very excited to introduce you to Dr. Jain. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to her and let her explain her challenge question. And thank you so much for being here, Dr. Jain. The floor is yours.
Thank you for having me, John. Thank you, everyone on the team. I'm looking to learn with collective wisdom. Crowdsourcing is at its best today. Challenge question. I'm a little bit new to this, so please guide me if I go a little bit off. My biggest challenge today is increasing visibility and credibility while getting paid for speaking engagements. I do have current speaking engagements. I speak at universities, colleges, schools, Rotaries, Lions, and multiple other places. I have spoken at about 19 Rotaries. I have spoken extensively at James Madison University, and I'm looking to increase the visibility. And the reason I'm looking for that is, as we all know, and I would imagine as you all agree with me, that there is much need for teaching or not teaching, I take that word back, for sharing, for allowing our youth to enable them to share their emotions in a more healthy way, so that they can stay away from all of the anxiety issues and all of the drugs and the gun violence that they're going through. And that's the reason that I'd like to raise awareness for this. Who am I? I am a parent and teen life coach. I don't like to call myself a coach because I think it's carrying a stigma to that name now. So I'm a youth behavior change, certified youth behavior change specialist. And I target mostly immigrant children because I think they're the ones who struggle the most. That being said, that's not my only audience. My audience is between 12 to 27 and parents. And I study generational behaviors. And the way I do it is I bring together various generations through studying behaviors and teaching them, or taking them through 52 different concepts, which they think are their limiting belief systems. Our company was founded in 2023, though I've been doing this for a decade, but with my earlier job, I used to work at the World Bank for about 25 years. And then I was doing this on the side as my retirement plan, but we were formally established in February of 2023. We were selling before that, but our formal sale went up in February 2023. The revenue has been going up steadily since then. We are doing good, but we'd like to expand now. And that's why I'm here, to learn from you and to get feedback from you, is how can we go out there and make a difference on a larger scale? Next slide, please. What is our vision? Our vision is to help teenagers develop into confident leaders of tomorrow. As we all agree, our youth today are very, very talented. They have very high, they have a lot of talent, but their EQ is very low. And as I go back to my childhood, Melinda asked me this question when I began, is how did I get into this? As I went through my teenage years, I had an amazing set of parents, but I did not have the guidance that I needed to go through life, due to which teenage years were very, very tough for me, and they defined the rest of my life. And when I touched 40, I realized that something's got to shift, something's got to change. What is it that I didn't get in my childhood that I would like to gift to the youth of today? And that's what I came up to. I would like to bridge that generational divide through self-reflection and strategies on how to manage these emotions. And that's why I do what I do. What problem does my business solve? We're an organization that coaches not only immigrant American children, but I like to call them immigrant American children, by inculcating values through a change in perspective. So I have these 52 different values that I focus on, beginning but not limited to attitude, mindset, courage, gratitude, self-confidence, self-esteem, and more. And we work with tweens, teens, and parents to help them cope with the emotional and the behavioral issues that they face today, because there's a generational gap. Gen X thinks differently. Millennials think differently. Today's generation thinks differently. The upcoming generation, the alpha generation, thinks differently. But our strong belief is that behind every action, there is an emotion. So if a child is acting up, but if a child is not feeling good, or is anxious, or is defying their parents, there is an emotion behind that. And if we were to go and break down that particular emotion, we'd be able to guide our children and guide our youth into becoming the healthier self, and helping them gain that self-awareness with which they can lead life. So we strongly believe that behind every action, there is an emotion. The modalities that I support is I do one-to-one coaching, I do group coaching, I do workshops, and I do keynote speaking. My one-to-one coaching is targeted for teens, parents, adults, and adults, sorry, 3. And then my group coaching is anybody who wants the support, but not in a collective way. So wants parents want to come together to support each other and at the same time bring their teens together so they can learn from each other's experiences. I also do workshops on multiple different topics. One of my favorite workshops and a very popular one is on boundaries, because that is one area that parents struggle to establish. And because they're not well-established boundaries, which is the structure that our children, our youth are looking for, because they're unable to create that structure themselves. When a parent is stronger than a child in those boundaries and is able to maintain those boundaries, they have a greater impact. My keynote speaking, again, is on multiple topics. I speak on all of the 52 topics that I have on my list. For instance, I just did a recent talk with parents on the impact of boundaries at JMU. We had about 150 people in the room. And then I did another one with teens in which it was the topic was on self-belief. How do you generate self-belief? How do you create it? How do you use affirmations to continue to strengthen your self-belief? So that was another one of the keynote speaking that I did. I'm also working with Prince William County Schools and Fairfax County Schools on various such topics. What do I offer? I'm a coach. What does that mean? I am not here to advise children. I'm not here to advise youth. I'm here to help hold the space and make observations to help them identify their self-limiting belief systems. My ideal clients are parents, youth, teens, educators, schools, colleges, organizations. I also go into organizations and work with the incoming workforce on professional development. And one of the key things that I do with James Madison University is I coach their faculty and their students and bridge that generational divide and help faculty engage students into academics by studying behaviors. What is the unique value do I provide? Again, with behavioral analysis. So when I'm coaching faculty, I'm coaching them on particular behaviors that impact Gen Z particularly, and how to involve them in academics by creating an emotional connection. What differentiates you? I have a doctorate in behaviors, in generational behavior. So I don't only study Gen Zs, I study Gen Z, millennials, Gen X, baby boomers, all of the generations. So that is that is the value that I bring to the table as a coach or a youth behavior change specialist. Again, my ideal target audience is parents, youth, teens, educators, schools, colleges, organizations. Organizations that could partner with me are, again, universities are very, very big on my list. Youth foundations are very big on my list. Private schools are very big on my list. I recently did a talk again on boundaries with Westminster School, which was very well taken. I speak with organizations who are struggling to engage the workforce and keep the workforce, reduce the turnover of their workforce. Very big on social media. I have a very active website. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. I have Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. I network on an average 25 hours a week. I connect with a lot of youth foundations. I'd like to connect with all of the mental health youth foundations who are looking to create an impact and raise mental health awareness. How we help. Well, as we all know, we're shaped by the experiences. I think everybody in the room, there's a lot of wisdom in the room. And as you probably know, that we all have a personal story. And most of what we do stems from our personal story. What do? I help youth with self-discovery. Nobody likes to be told what to do. Not youth, not adults, not you, not me. So how is it that you can coach our young adults without telling them what to do? So I help them with self-discovery, self-awareness by visiting the various concepts. And I like to say that I pride myself in saying that I can change the I love you, mom. That you don't understand me, mom and dad, to I love you, mom and dad. Simply by reducing the control aspect that parents have on their children. What is our three-prong approach? I like to call it as a three-prong approach. It's discovery, clarity, and action. In the discovery phase, I create the space to listen, identify what is bothering them. Then I make space for observations, and I identify what I've observed without coming as controlling, only making observation, helping them self-reflect, creating that self-awareness. And then you see visible growth because we have a clear action plan for that particular week. We set very small goals. For instance, let's say a youth comes to me and says that I struggle with social anxiety. So that goal for the week would be, all right, you go to a group of 5 people, and I'd like you to challenge yourself to go and make eye contact with just one person in that group. And here are some conversation starters, and use these conversation starters to build that gap that you're feeling, to create that confidence, to look into those eyes. What is your body language going to be? What will your conversation starters? What would you like your conversation to gear towards? And that's how you build connection. Who are your competitors? I would like to say my biggest competitor is Shafali Sabari. She's based in New York. She's a parenting coach. She's excellent in what she does. And the one thing that I like to stand out in, and I don't resonate with other coaches, is that I'm not somebody who says parents are at fault. I think it's a question of bringing a parent and a child to a middle ground. And how do you do that? Through identifying that what you're thinking and what you're saying is based on your generational factors, how you were raised. How is it that you can change that and blend that with what your current generation or what your child is facing right now? Challenge question again, help me. Identify those speaking engagements, identify those people who can who I can speak to raise awareness. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you
Jen,
so much.
you got it.
Yeah, thank you very much for all the background and insight on the work you're doing. I think it was important so folks can provide suggestions that are even more tailored. So what will happen next, we'll spend the next 30 minutes-ish talking through recommendations. If folks in the room have clarifying questions, perfect. I would ask that you raise your hand to let us know you have a question. You can also drop comments in chat so that we can have that for the record, but I can also look there and grab questions too. But I think to kick us off, and just a reminder, everybody, including organizers, let's make sure we're concise in our thoughts and questions and answers. And Dr. Jain, same thing. If you have a response, let's keep it short just so we can get as many suggestions as possible.
I will be making notes, so I'm very attentive, but I'm just making notes.
Okay.
So I get them.
And don't forget, we're recording and we have it in chat too. So if you feel like you need to be more present, that's okay. Whatever works for you. John Foster, why don't you kick us off with a brilliant comment?
Oh, well, of course, my brilliant comments can be around LinkedIn. Dr. Jain, thank you so much for the presentation, because certainly what you're doing is hugely necessary. Certainly mental health in this country is a big problem, and certainly among the youth. So I'm really grateful for what you're doing. The other thing which I'll do, and I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn, there are a couple of organizations I'd like to talk to you about, that, you know, a couple of nonprofits as well as software organizations that are doing some things around mental health. So I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Michael Butera, if you would kick off the next question, that would be great.
Thank you. I think that what I've learned over the years, and might be of some value to you, is to make sure that your target audience really is a target. You mentioned that you have 52 different speeches. I didn't get a chance to go to your website. That's a lot. And my experience with event planners is they just want to see, you know, 2 minutes of you speaking in front of a group on a video reel, and that's the way to get more gigs. I also put a couple comments in the chat, which may be of some assistance to you.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Michael. Melinda.
I started thinking about visibility. Outstanding presentation, by the way, Dr. Jain. One of the things that I thought of way back when was the Art Link letter show. You may not have had it in India, but it was with a lot of kids and they would say just fun things. Don't know if you can do anything visible like that to get attention, but something like that could be very fun. And then I also started to think about all the different target audiences you have. And I zoomed in on one that I can help you with if you want to go after sororities and fraternities, which is at a really interesting level because they take programs into schools and other types of things. And maybe they can become your ambassadors going at younger levels. You may want to put an ambassadors program together or something. And because you have so many target audiences, and I agree with that, maybe pick your top 5 for a month or something and just focus on whatever it might be. Don't walk away from anything if somebody wants to discuss something, but just don't walk away from it. I know that there are other hands going up, so I need to pass the torch on to somebody else.
Thank you, Melinda. If I may just offer a clarifying question here. I think I wasn't clear. I don't have 52 speeches. I coach on 52 different concepts. If you go on my website, you will see that there is the multiple reels that I've posted as speaking in front of audiences. But the concepts that I teach is 52 concepts. But my talks are limited.
There are lots of companies who have ERG groups, and one of the employee resource groups that has definitely taken off lately has been parenting ERGs. Have you had a chance to reach out to larger corporations and speak to parent ERG groups?
I haven't, not yet. I'd love your help on that, Jen. Thank you.
Sure, absolutely. I think that could be one. And then I had a clarifying question. Being a parent of a Gen Z, one of the things that I was wondering is, are you considering doing, I'll say like a private coaching experience? I'll give an example because I think parents would pay for this. Like, let's say your Gen Z son or daughter likes cooking. Have you thought about maybe doing, bringing together a chef and you and the child and the parent to create a learning experience where the teenager can talk through something? Because I know it's not a speaking engagement, but it might be a different stream of revenue that you could also charge more for, and maybe it could be a different variation of group coaching for what that's worth.
That's interesting, Jen. I'd love to hear a little more, and maybe we can take that offline. But I'm a little bit concerned here that it may become an expensive issue for a parent. Why? So I'd like a little more clarity on that one. It seems like a very interesting concept.
Maybe it was just I'm hungry, and that's what I was thinking about. We'll talk more. I'll put more thoughts in chat. John Rudenberg.
Thank you. And Dr. Jain, thank you so much for your interest in 1MillionCups and your great presentation. To focus on your challenge question, I divided it into 2 parts. 1, your goal to increase awareness, and 2, to use speeches and get paid for those speeches. So you expressed that you work in different markets. So different markets require different approaches. So my first would be is to decide on the 2 or 3 markets, 1 or 2 even, be narrow and specific for the moment. And based on that, you can determine the right strategies. For example, you have great experience within the George Mason community. There are other colleges and universities in the greater metro area, let alone the contacts in this room at some of them. And so there are many opportunities. What would happen if you utilize speeches within the university world, the academic world, to build that niche? Because that's different than just working with parents and kids who have these issues. I do, and I'll follow up with me. I have a very dear friend who works with children of all ages in the executive skills and executive functioning area. And getting paid, I'd start low to build demand and then build your pricing structure over time. Because I think building the awareness in niche areas is a faster way. What's the benefit of a 2nd and 3rd school in terms of time and effort as opposed to the next 50 parent children? I'd look very strongly at that.
Sorry,
You
go
go.
ahead.
All I was going to add is client acquisition cost is a very important factor.
I totally hear you. And I have managed to get into a few universities, one of them being James Madison. But the one thing that I've experienced with universities, I tried getting to George Mason, but they don't have, at least that's what they say, they don't have the budget for it. And they normally get speakers from within. So I don't think they recognize the expertise. They recognize you as a speaker, but they don't recognize the expertise that you bring versus the existing speakers in the university itself.
I think the play in universities is positioning the faculty to deal with the Gen Z.
Yes.
Okay, it may not, speeches will come second, or the credibility you build will make you an attractive speaker candidate.
Correct. Thank you.
I
Thank you for
build
that.
the
I appreciate it.
niches. Sure.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you again.
John Foster, you're back.
I'm back.
He's
Yes,
not fixed for LinkedIn yet, so
yeah,
this is different.
we haven't done that yet. But the question I have for you around the various, I'll say, niches, because it seems that you have a number of them, and yet, so that's one thing. Just commenting on that. The other thing is it just you, or do you have partnerships with anybody else?
I have a team.
Okay.
So the
Yeah,
coach, the youth behavior change specialist is me. I
Okay.
have a team of three Gen Zers and one Gen X who's my communications head. But the three Gen Zers, so I have a researcher, I have a creative designer, and I have a VA. So I have an entire team who works with me. Yes.
Great. I'll just mention this just because it ties in fairly closely. There's an organization out there called Morgan's Message, which I'm very familiar with for a number of reasons. But it's an organization that helps promote awareness for mental health around college athletes. And they are on over 500 campuses now with ambassadors for all the campuses. So I just throw that out there because I think, something like that, it sounds like you're starting to go down that path. And that goes back to Melinda's point about ambassadors.
Yes, thank you. I think the sororities and fraternities and creating that ambassador program is going to be great. Yes. Oh, I love this. I should have come here before.
Better late than never. Michael.
Are you a member of the National Speakers Association?
No.
You are or not?
No, I'm not.
It would be something you might want to look into.
Okay.
And in addition to that, I work in the association space. And I think if you targeted associations in your area of expertise, particularly as it relates to health and youth, that is a great area to find lots of work. And interestingly enough, they pay pretty well. So as I mentioned earlier, check out the event planners in that space, or I'll send you my email and I'll give you a one-on-one on how to engage with the association space.
Oh, yes, I would love that. I would love that.
Thank you, Michael. Great observations as always. Amy.
Thank you for the presentation. This is something that is quietly close to my heart. Being first generation on one hand, but on the other hand, the generations in our family are very, very mixed. So two things. So many people have brought good ideas. It's such an amazing concept because bridging the gaps is critical, and the mental health piece is another one. I would love to chat offline, but 3 groups I can connect you with immediately. Private schools, Major League Baseball youth after school academies, and then Society of Human Resources Management, I think would be great resources for you. And also someone mentioned I think it was John, connecting with the faculty at the universities in order to raise the profile, I think is critical, but wonderful presentation and fantastic work.
Thank you so much, Amy. I appreciate it. And I'm going to connect with each and every one of you. I think there's so much wisdom in the room. So I'm going to connect with each and every one of you if you're open to that for a one-to-one and meet you in person. I'm based in Fairfax. So if you're around, I would love to connect with you and meet you
I'm
in
in
person.
Falls, so we're close by.
Dr. Jain, do you have a speaker one pager and speaker reel?
Yes, it's all on my website. Everything is on my web. My website it's got my publications. You'll see a reel. There's a media kit and everything that you want on the speaking page. It's very
Perfect.
well laid out.
One thing I would throw out there for campus stuff, which I'm happy to help with, is at Georgetown, I know the person who runs the student engagement. But I think one of the things that might be interesting as a foot in the door of getting visibility to a lot of people, which I can also help with, might be speaking to alumni groups, because then you
Yes.
can get broad reach and it can be seen as a benefit or a perk for a university to say, hey, we have this great speaker coming in. You could do it on an alumni weekend, but you could also do, like Georgetown does, virtual YouTube sort of curriculum delivery. The other thought out there, I think there's space for you to create a talk simply for CEOs and executives on how do you bridge the gap across generational communication in the workforce, especially in a hybrid workforce. That is a huge gap that still exists, especially post-COVID. One group that I can also connect you with is Vistage, where you can become a speaker and you can get visibility to organizations who are anywhere from 1 million in revenue to 400 million or more in revenue. And I think this topic would really resonate and could be something for sure that people would pay for. My suggestion, if you don't have this, is thinking through that generational piece across the 5 generations in the workforce, but building a talk specifically around that. You may already have that, but I think specifically for CEOs and executives as they go to lead, how are they leading differently given the different generations in the workforce?
That's
John,
brilliant.
I wanted to go back and touch on Amy and Jen's earlier comments about focusing on the areas of common interests among parents and Gen Zers, whatever those common interests are, as you lay out your marketing plans to reach the consumer market as opposed to a business market. They are 2 different items, 2 different segments. And so, you know, whether it's eating, as Jen suggested, or chocolates, as Amy might have been thinking about, but that's what I think of when I think of Amy, among other things, but sports as another important common area. And then use those marketing channels to increase awareness.
Thank you. I totally agree with you. I think one thing, another couple of things that I forgot to miss out. I'm sorry, I was really shorty on my slides this morning. So this is my first time. My sincere apologies. I also have a TED Talk. I've done a TEDx talk also, and I'm an author of 2 books, and the 3rd book is in the making. So just to put that out there too.
It's amazing. Great.
do you have talks built around those 2 books and the 3rd book coming out?
I don't have talks built around the 2 books. No. One is a very academic book, and the other one is a parent-teen journey, which I speak a lot on social media, but I don't have a talk around it.
Maybe worth going back and just revisiting your top talks and maybe trying a few different versions. John Norse.
Yeah, good morning. I'm on your website. Just to have 2 comments. You have a section here that says, how is behavioral change expert different from a therapist? And again, I'm not familiar with this field, but it kind of seems like you're making therapy seem like it's not something that's successful like what you do. And if I'm somebody on this website and I'm seeing therapy and it's kind of taking a slant that therapy is not as effective at what you do, I'm going to feel uncomfortable. Or have I been making mistakes? Or who are you going to alienate other therapists? And then the second point is, if you truly have developed value in your services, you're giving away a free consultation. And I'm
I
just
didn't
curious.
understand the right, but thank you for that, John. I appreciate that. I did not know it came across like that. I will redo the write-up. But what I didn't understand was the last bit. Could you repeat that for me, please?
Yeah, I said if you've established your value, why would you give away a free consultation?
Because what I do is completely based on trust. And unless and until, and if a parent, especially if you're dealing with the youth and a parent is reaching out, they would like to have a 20-minute consultation to know what I do. Because there are lots of life coaches in this world. And what gives me an edge over everybody else. And because it's based on trust, they like to see and hear before they sign up with me.
Then for me, I might rename it as a conversation versus a consultation.
Okay.
This consultation seems like something very formalized, which is fine, but my expectation might be an hour of your time for free. You don't stipulate, just say free to have I'm just saying it may be misleading. That's all.
Okay. Thank you. I can rearrange that to say a conversation instead of consult. That's very good feedback. Thank you, John. I appreciate that.
Thanks, from Michael Butera.
So I just spent some time on your website, and my experience, for whatever this is worth, with event planners is based on keep it simple, stupid. If they have to click through to find stuff, you're not going to get their attention. You might want to build a subscription service within the website for your materials. It could be a free one. They're pretty easy to do. But I think a little bit more white space, particularly if you want to get into the speaking area. This requires a lot of time on the phone actually talking to event planners. They are the people that book the speakers. So that's the person you want to get to.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And if there's anybody in the room who knows event planners, any particular space for event planners, I'd love that connection too.
John Foster.
No, I'm coming back. I just can't help myself, I guess, because of the topic. But I want to go back to something that John Norse mentioned, but about trust and building trust. And I'm going to go back to LinkedIn just because you've got so many people on there, and being able to start to build. It won't be the kind of trust you're looking for, but to further build, I'll say, a social trust, if you will, by being more active on LinkedIn. I saw some of the stuff, but there's some things that you could do to enhance that. So
thank you, John. I try and write 3 posts a week on LinkedIn, and I'm very active in responding to people. So very active on LinkedIn, but yes, I will keep that in mind and make sure that I continue to build that connections.
And we can chat offline too.
Yes, I did see the appointment come in. Thank you for scheduling that. I appreciate that.
And I think one piece to chime in on LinkedIn is connecting your company brand on your personal profile.
That is something that I struggle with. I have managed to do that. And somebody did mention that to me, saying that I should distinguish between the personal and the professional. But at this point, my LinkedIn has become so solid that I'm having a hard time kind of transferring that.
Luckily, we have some people who can help.
Yes, I'd love help with that.
Go ahead, Melinda.
Oh, one of the things that I think that might help you get to a lot of the organizations you want to get to are trade associations. There are web planner associations, there are event planner associations, and there are active groups in the Metro DC area of these national associations or international associations. And we can help you get to that too by finding and locating some of those.
Yes, that'd be wonderful. I would love that. Thank you.
Other questions or ideas, thoughts from the group? We have a few more minutes for Q&A. I would recommend, Dr. Jain, if you don't have one, is to make a podcast one-pager.
So can you explain that, Jen? Because I do have a podcast. I run a podcast. It's called Healthy Vibrations.
So this would be something where it's you being invited to be on other people's podcasts.
I speak a lot on those too.
Podcast one pager is different than a speaker one pager.
Okay.
It highlights your bio, but it highlights, these are the top questions to ask me. These are some of the podcasts I've been on. And I think your speaker one pager tries to be the speaker for everyone. I might consider having a speaker one pager for companies and you highlight your top 3 talks, a speaker one pager for universities, because sometimes there's so many talks that you have on your speaker one pager or even on the website, it can create a little bit of analysis paralysis and make it hard to move forward. The other thing, looking at your website, I know you have buttons to speak and schedule. And your media kit, when I click on the download, it takes me to a Google Drive folder. I would just think about having the document available or a pop-up to gather emails.
So pop-up to gather emails. So when somebody comes
in to get your one pager, to grow your list. One of the things that came up in an event earlier this week, as I mentioned, I was talking about you and your business and how needed it is. And we were discussing all of the new language and words that Gen Z uses.
Yes.
That parents are like, I don't know what that means. And even just to get people interested, it might even be fun to do short videos on that. That could lead to more awareness where you could say, look, if you're having trouble discovering the words that your Gen Z are using, I can help, right? And that turns into helping with broader conversations too. But I definitely think there's something there.
Definitely. That's a great idea.
Oh, I know. I had one other suggestion. I do, and you may do this already, I do Google alerts for call for speakers. And so when I get a Google alert, and I do a Google alert around call for speakers in quotations. So when conferences are looking for speakers, I get those notifications and can apply. So I do love the idea of talking with event planners, but there are plenty of conferences and national events where you could go apply to be a speaker as well.
And where do you get that?
I use Google Alerts, but if you go to Google and just type in call for speakers 2024, call for speakers 2025, you'll start to see what's out there. I would look for conferences, whether it's focused on people, leadership, communication. Sometimes when I'm looking for a speaking opportunity, I'll go to a conference where no one's going to be talking about anything related to what I do. Right. So I might go to a banking conference around banking and fintech and regulations because they're going to want to have a break from that and talk about something different.
Brilliant.
So you might find if you go to conferences that are very industry based, that actually could be a really powerful way to bring in the conversation about generations in the workforce.
Brilliant. That one's brilliant. Thank you.
Sometimes it can make it easier to stand out when you're applying to be accepted. All right, I'm going to share our screen and turn it back over to John Rittenberg to keep us moving forward.
Absolutely. Well, again, to Dr. Jain, a round of applause and deep appreciation for you taking your time. The final question that we have, besides all the ideas and suggestions that came up, what else can our 1 Million Cups community help you with today?
I think that with any entrepreneur, the one key aspect to growth is making solid relationships. So I would truly appreciate if everybody in the room is willing to have a one-to-one with me and then helping me expand my circle as I help you expand yours.
Well, I'm sure for everyone in the room, it will be their pleasure. And if not, just see any of the guys whose name is John in the room today.
How do I get the emails for everybody so I can reach out individually?
It'll be in the chat room.
Yeah.
And
Why am I not able to download this chat?
so there are two really important ways. You mentioned one is certainly the relationships, maybe three. The second is coming on a regular basis to our Wednesday meetings and be on the other side of the table using your wisdom to help the next entrepreneur. And then sometime in the next 60 to 90 days, a little birdie will touch base with you, inviting you back to update us on your progress. And we're thrilled and welcome that and look forward to seeing you Wednesday morning over a cup of coffee or any other drink you choose. So next week, we have an opening. A number of us are working diligently, but we have an opening. Perhaps there's a topic you'd like us to cover. I also saw that I just froze. So Jen, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, so
Thank you, John Rudenberg.
Hmm.
Nobody else is going to tell you. It's like the spinach in the teeth. Like, so if you're frozen, someone should tell you.
right.
Or you're not showing your slides, someone should tell you right away. Next week for dinner, we may have someone from Truist present on lending for businesses and get very specific on a topic that would be relevant for this group. However, that's not confirmed yet. So if you do know someone who is interested in presenting about their business, next week is open. If you'd like to be an organizer or you just want to dip your toe in the water, the time commitment's very light. It's this meeting and a 30-minute meeting on Monday. And we rotate through tasks because many hands makes light work. Upcoming events, I would scan the QR code, visit Central Fairfax Chamber of Commerce. They do a great job of pulling in events. And I would also look at Veterans Scoring America. They have great pop-ups and they have a physical location you can go visit in Woodbridge. We do have a speaker August 14th. That'll be Alex Mattini. He's going to talk about Franchise Select, which is all about how he helps entrepreneurs think through choosing franchise as an option for them and how he uses 40 plus years of entrepreneurial experience to help folks navigate them. We do have, again, a few more openings in August. Just as a reminder, if you scan that orange QR code, you can find all of the information you need there. You can find the link to apply, which is basically a few short questions. And then if you want to follow us on social, you can do that too. I did put Dr. Jane's LinkedIn profile in chat earlier, so feel free to connect with her. Feel free to put your email in if you didn't get a chance. John, I'm glad you've joined back. Please do follow us on social and share material. You'll see the YouTube video that John Foster and I did on LinkedIn go out on social. You'll also see this recording with Dr. Jane go out later this week. So spread the word, share the message. That is always beneficial. McKinley, thanks for dropping your information in chat. We appreciate you joining us each week too. I'm going to stop recording now and leave the room open. We're here just to chat and catch up and network.